having reductions in radiation, in sunlight. No, you can't dispute that. So what is the effect of reduced sunlight? Just that factor alone. Increased molds, increased mildew, greater susceptibility to viruses again, reduced crop yields. Studies in Illinois University have shown, everything else being equal, all the climate conditions, reduced yields. Ecosystems. Nearly every ecosystem relies on photosynthesis at some level. So just that ring alone, you could say, this is big stuff. SAD again, people constantly being under this blanket of cloud. It's a lot worse in London, apparently, than it is out here. Vitamin D again, so the whole vitamin D, rickets thing, strong bones and teeth. And this one's a bit odd as well, solar PV. So you have government pushing renewable energy technologies, solar PV. We're having huge investment of solar over the past few years, but yet people are reporting 40, 50, 60% drop in solar output from this excess cloud cover. And yep, organisations are reporting on it. The BBC in 2005, why the sun seems to be dimming. In this article it says there was a staggering 22% drop in sunlight, so that's average, falling by 10% in the US, 30% in former Soviet Union, and 16% in the British Isles. Dimming appears to be caused by air pollution. Our Met Office has now got a global dimming section on the website. It's got an aerosol research manager, Dr. Jim Hayward. So if all of this is happening, wouldn't you expect to find stuff in test samples? You would expect to find some of this, some of the events, kind of spiking on graphs where heavy spray days are occurring, with drinking water and our rain, air and soil. Human samples have been tested, blood and hair. This is what we're finding. This is what we're finding. Most of the tests so far, the body of research is being conducted in the United States. We are a little bit behind on the testing. But essentially, I've just pulled out a few. I'll give you some references to loads of test results. But I think you're doing amazingly well for your attention at the moment, so I'm not going to labour this. Rain and snow samples. No aluminium is meant to be found in rain, really. It just doesn't, it's not naturally occurring. So normal rain levels are between 0 to 0.5 micrograms per litre. And in the red, you see some quite startling results. Barium also. So in Lincolnshire, we had 70 micrograms. In Portsmouth, there was 350 micrograms reported. Drinking water again, safe levels, 0.05 milligrams per litre, or 50 micrograms per litre. This is a test result from, I think this is a New Zealand one. So 0.19 micrograms per litre on the upper end of the limit. This is an air sample from the States, the Phoenix. The blue bars you can see are the actual reading from the test, and these tiny little black bar lines are the MCL, which is the maximum contaminant level, or the toxic limit. And again, I'm not going to go into that. I think it speaks for itself, really. Okay, this is the big one. Why? Everybody's asking, why are they doing this? Why? Why would the government be doing this to us? So, I believe that the sales pitch to us is, due to man-made global warming, the planet needs to be cooled. That's what the IPCC are saying, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They're saying we need excess cloud cover to bounce the sunlight, redirected out back into space. However, the climate change science isn't settled. And this is where I've jumped into it from my research. From looking at the IPCC models with my mathematical modelling of domestic energy use, the IPCC a kind of political organisation. It's not scientific. And this is the big risk, when you start marrying political and academic spheres, when policy is funding academia, you're going to get political-driven outcomes. You can't access the original data from the IPCC meteorological climate models. It's lost, it's gone missing. We've had ClimateGate 1 with the hacked emails, and there was a ClimateGate 2 actually. I don't know if many of you know about that. So for me, it doesn't fit. Something doesn't feel right. It's not going right. And when I looked around the subject, and this is the other thing, it's an epistemological issue. Epistemology being how we know what we know. And you have to fit, I've learned that you have to fit everything into context. So you look at climate and then you think, hang on a minute, how does this fit into the wider scheme of things, history, geopolitics, and other issues? Because compartmentalization is a huge, powerful driver in this field. And this is why a lot of professional people don't know about this stuff. It's because they're being compartmentalized. Compartmentalization is everybody working on a kind of need-to-know basis. I kind of view it as a honeycomb structure, where everyone's in their little honeycomb, being busy, going away, coming back again. And what I've been doing over the past year is walking on that little thin edge, looking down at everyone doing their own little thing, and then you put the pieces together and you think, hang on a minute, it's not working, something's not quite right. This is an interesting one I came up with, and many people have sourced this. This is a report by the Club of Rome. It came out in 1991, and if you haven't come across this, it's quite an interesting read. It's called The First Global Revolution, and the UN think tank was tasked with the idea of coming up with various schemes to unite humanity, basically. It came up with it had other aims and objectives as well. Depopulation was another one. On page 75, under the heading, "The Common Enemy of Humanity is Man," quote, "In searching for a common enemy against whom we can unite, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like, would fit the bill." Some of you have come across this. And then it goes on to say that all of these are kind of human-induced, therefore humanity itself is its own enemy. And I know from a psychological background, as soon as you kind of make people feel guilty, how easy is it to control them, using their guilt against them? So just a quick recap. They're saying we need to cool the Earth, the deliberate intervention in the Earth's climate to moderate global warming, the definition of geoengineering, through solar radiation management, aerosols reflecting light. But NASA came out in 2005 with a newsletter saying persistent jet contrails forming man-made clouds and haze are, quote, "trapping warmth in the atmosphere and exacerbating, making it worse, global warming." You twin that with this study from Mark Jacobson from Stanford University, and it reads, "Atmospheric scientists at Stanford University, California, show that aircraft vapor trails," so we're talking about normal contrails, produce between 15 and 20% of the warming in the Arctic. So again, just to kind of break that down into plain speak, plain English, government scientists are saying more man-made clouds plus more aviation emissions equals cooling. It doesn't add up. Clouds perform two functions. They do indeed reflect solar radiation, but they also act, as some of you know, as a blanket around the globe. So the radiative forcing, the difference between the heat emitting from the Earth and that coming in, it has two forces. And there are numerous studies that say, yeah, putting more clouds is actually going to make us warmer. Okay, so we're getting there. I'm getting to the knockout punch. Why else would they do it? Why else would government geoengineers be doing this if the science doesn't stack up? The first agenda, first and foremost, I think, is to control the weather. And when you can control the weather through various means, you can start to manipulate public opinion with certain things, like getting people to buy into the idea of man-made climate change. I'm not saying man-made climate change, we are, and you have to pick it apart really carefully. Man-made, man. Which men, people? Is it the public? Is it government? Social control mechanism. So when you can control the weather, you can put upon society some very rigid social controls. Control food supply and cost. We all need food. Corporate profit. There are corporate profit motives that I'll show you in a minute to this. Enhanced military capability. I think we touched upon it with the HARP and the radar noise. And geopolitical agendas. And these are just some of them. And these are the main kind of 7 that I've identified. So do you remember the Venn diagram with the geoengineering, the weather modification? So weather modification is an industry in its own right. If you have enough money, you can actually pay a weather modification company in the States to fly over your town, your county or your state to modify the weather. Modify it to create extreme weather. You can create floods, droughts. If you seed the sky with particulates that are so fine, the water molecules cannot create the mass to bring them down again. So it kind of dissipates the rain, as so to speak. Storms, hurricanes. Military can now steer hurricanes. And there's a paper on steering hurricanes. Erosion, hail damage, blizzards, so again snow, excess snow. And when you have droughts, of course, we have water shortages. And when I look at this, it kind of rings a bell as to what's been going on recently. So, you can manipulate public opinion, you can convince people of climate change, and if you can do that, you can impose carbon taxes. There's the cap and trade scheme where companies are allowed a certain quota, and if they go above that, they have to pay fines or not fines. They have to buy credits. Personal carbon taxes. Australia are having some tough times with personal carbon taxes at the moment. Personal carbon taxes, you know, everything you do. If you step in a car, if you take a flight somewhere, you'll be penalised. Agenda 21. Those of you who know about Agenda 21 will know that this document does not leave out anything in modern society at the moment. It's another talk in its own right. But essentially it's there to facilitate the management of resources, people, population. Okay, so I'm getting onto the weather derivative now. You can bet on the weather through the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. You can bet on the weather through insurances. If you're a farmer, you can insure, let's say, 1 acre of crop. Let's say that 1 acre can make you £100. You can insure it for £1,000. So if you have knowledge on a large scale, if you have knowledge of how the weather regimes are going, you can make some serious money. Commodities trading on the futures market, again. This is a little page from a little diagram from the CME, and it talks about there being nearly 1 million contracts by 2008. So there's probably well over 1 million now. WSI is a company I just picked out the hat as a weather kind of trading company. So it reads here: the only thing more powerful than weather, this is their homepage, is our ability to help you profit from it. And this is one from The Independent. It reads: Goldman bankers get rich betting on food prices as millions starve. In the States, energy companies already modify